Hi everyone, welcome to our new YouTube channel. I'm assuming if you all are watching this video, you must be a student of calculus. So in today's video, we are actually just starting the topic. So we will only be discussing about the basics of calculus. What is calculus? What are the different areas of calculus that you have to study, and how should you prepare for it? So I'll just very quickly brief you about all of this. So let's start with the calculus. You all must think, why are we learning it? When we learn it, we are just, when are we going to use this derivative and integration? So these are the kind of questions that's always there in your mind. So we will just have a brief idea about why do we learn that and where do we use that. Okay, so calculus, what is it? Actually, it's a branch of mathematics focused on limit functions, derivatives, integrals, and infinite series that we will just be discussing. It's not only about it, there are multiple division of these topics as well. Calculus is actually the study of changes, geometry in the study of shape. So when you do geometry, when you do algebra, you would have seen that you learn about straight line. Let's imagine a car is moving on a straight road. It's not changing its speed, it's just moving at a certain speed for a particular duration or for a particular distance. So that study we do in algebra. But what if we are driving a car on the mountains and we are driving a car on a circular road? Then you must have seen, whenever you take a turn, you have to slow down your car, and whenever it's a straight road, you can just speed up your car. So how do we study that? Can you say that if I tell you that to travel 10 kilometers, it took me 30 minutes? Can you tell me in 1 minute how much you would have traveled? No, that would be your average speed. That will actually not be your actual speed. So to understand what was your actual speed at the first 10 minutes, on the second 20th minute, for that we study calculus. Okay, so in calculus there are two branches that's there. You can see on the screen, differential calculus and integral calculus. Now differential calculus is also divided into two parts, derivative and limits, where we first study limits and then we move to derivatives. And integrals are also divided into like integrals, and then there is application of integration that you will do. So integrals, actually I'll just tell you the difference between differentiation and integral. What is it, and how many parts do they have? How many things that we have to know to master the skills of doing derivative and integration? So if you'll see, this diagram is only there to tell you the difference between uh, calculus and algebra, and why do we need to study that. So if you'll see differential calculus, this branch of calculus focuses on rate of change, right? It doesn't, it tells you, for an example, let's say in the 2020 you had a business, and you know that your business has been increasing for the past 1 year. But do you know when it was increasing at a higher rate, when it was increasing at a lower rate? How would you get to know when is the peak season for the product that you are selling, and when is the low season for the product that you are selling? So for that study we have to use calculus. Calculus actually tells you about the change of rate of change, right? So if you'll see this diagram that I've seen on shown on the right hand side, there is this one road which is, you know in a shape of a curve, and another one is like a straight road. So as I told you, you can ride your motorcycle or your car at a certain speed on a straight road, but whenever there is a turn or there is a I would say a breaker, you have to slow down the speed. So you have to change your speed. So your speed is dynamic. So actually calculus is all about the study of dynamic nature of graphs and everything. Okay, so now I will just talk about the parts of calculus and how do we study that. So in calculus, as we just discussed, there is one called differential calculus and another one is integral calculus. In differential, I told you, we first study limits and then after that we study derivatives. So in limits, why is it important? I'll just tell you that. So if you'll see, um, what happens is that, so basically derivative is all about slope. So I'll just draw a diagram here and let's see. Because it's not a straight line, the slope would keep changing. Let's say you want to find a slope at this point A. Okay. So it's a tangent. It's not a line. When you have a line, you can simply find the slope. Let's say I'll just draw it here. If you have a line, if you have 2 points, you can just simply put that formula. y1 y2 minus x1 x2, and you can just find the slope. But when you do not have the line and the 2 points, and you have only 1 point and you have to find the slope at this particular point, how do you do that? So we just take an imaginary point. Let's say this is an imaginary point B, which we are assuming that it is as close to A as close as it's possible. So when you will see, if you'll it will be very close to A, it will be a very small line which will almost be parallel to the tangent line, but not exact parallel to the tangent line, right? So if it's almost parallel to the tangent line, and you must know this thing, that if two lines are parallel, the slopes are always equal. So if these two lines will be close to each other parallelly, so the slope would also be close to the slope of the tangent. So that's when the limits comes into the picture. So when we are studying slopes, we need to know the concept of limits. So in limits, you will see there is introduction of limits and infinity. There is an indeterminate form that you definitely need to know, because on that basis only you have to understand which method you will use to solve the question related to limits. Then there is an L'Hopital rule that I feel is really useful for the kind of questions which are indeterminated form, in form. Continuous function, you'll also study about it. When you learn limit, then you have to learn about continuity. It's not the first, you have to understand what is limit. Now let's move to derivative. Derivative, I just told you, in derivatives we actually talk about the slope of a graph. In derivative, these are the topics: introduction of derivative, slope of a function, single derivative and double derivative. And you will, in the higher grade, you will also study about partial derivatives. Now the rules that we use to solve the kind of questions that's there in derivative is power rule, product rule, and quotient rule. There is one more thing, chain rule, that I haven't mentioned here. So chain rule is actually the combination of all of them. Okay, now there is an extension of the chapter derivative, which is application of derivative. Like for CBSE board student from NCRT book, it's your chapter number 6. So there are a lot of things that is not directly derivative, it's an application of derivative. So derivative can be used to know rate of change, maxima, minima. For an example, I was just talking about your business. So let's say your business was increasing, but you needed to know at what point of the time it was highest, the rate of increase of your business was highest. So that's when we have to know increasing and decreasing function. Tangent and normal also you have to study. Approximation you also study, that we will actually be talking about when I'll start teaching you about application of derivative and the entire calculus topic. Now this is our final thing, integration. So we actually already covered the differential calculus, and there was derivative and limits and continuity, that was there. In integration is another branch that we have to do after that. So in integration, these are the topics. So when I was telling you about derivative, it was slope at a particular point. But in integration, it is not a slope. It is an area below a particular interval. Okay, so that's what you do in integration. Okay, so integration also has two dimensions: definite integrals and indefinite integrals, that will actually talk in deep in our further classes where we will start learning integration. So for now, this is what integration is, this is what derivative, and this is what limit is. And that's how you have to prepare for it. These are the topics which is there in integration. You make sure that you you know do all each and every methods of solving a particular question. Okay, I hope it was helpful. We will study a lot more things from our next class.